Okay, I get the. I get the.
Welcome into Fantasy Football Today, live here from Radio Row, as we bring you coverage of Super Bowl 54. Only 2 days away to the big game between the Chiefs and the 49ers. Another Super Bowl champion will be crowned. Last day for us here with Fantasy Football Today. We got a big show for you. Lots of guests, lots of stars coming through our set here on CBS Sports HQ, and one in particular is sitting down joining us right now. We're going to get a chance to talk to what I assume to be a Hall of Famer, what will be a Hall of Famer by the end of the weekend in Troy Polamalu. But as you see coming up today, we got Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey joining us on Fantasy Football Today. Taysom Hill and James White will be along as well. And let's bring in the cast here as Troy is all set. Troy Polamalu joining us here. We appreciate you taking some time to join us here on Fantasy Football Today, along with fellow two-time champion, Super Bowl champion Bryant McFadden. First for you, I think, joining us on Fantasy Football Today,
yes,
at least down here in Miami.
It took long enough.
And the two schmoes over here,
That's
Dave
right.
Richard and Jamie Eisberg. So, Troy, let's get right into it. You and B-Mac play together.
Absolutely.
I put this in the notes for us to talk about. I said story time with B-Mac. So give us a good Bryant McFadden story that sums up your former teammate and now our teammate.
A PG-13 one?
Yeah, absolutely.
PG-13.
I think what football-wise, I think one of the really awesome stories is you have to earn your way and earn your respect of the locker room. That's one thing I definitely learned my rookie year. And in fact, I never earned that my rookie year. So anytime a rookie came through and were able to do that, I definitely admired that. But I think B-Mac made his play in the AFC Championship game, and one of the biggest plays. And to me, that was probably one of the most important plays of the game, and really kind of helped pave the way to our first Super Bowl. And the way that he earned his respect, it was finally like, oh man, yes, finally, you know what I mean? Finally, we got a rookie that can come in here and produce for us. At the top of my head, that's the first thing that I can think of. I'm sure there's a lot of other stories, down the line, but I think that he was crying one time on the field when he got hurt.
No,
I'm joking. I'm joking. No.
we had to be tough. We had to be tough in that secondary. I know a fun Troy story for me. Troy had a lot of nicknames, but one of the best nicknames I think for Troy was, we used to call him Baby Jesus. Religion is very, very important for Troy. And during the games, Troy was a very, very instinctive player. He studied his film, consistently throughout the week. We used to watch, extra film together, secondary and the linebackers, Thursdays, and cater in food and just spend extra time at the facilities. But we will be in the game. It could be a first quarter play, maybe the second offensive series for the opposing offense. And Troy would come to the sideline. It could be a regular formation, which is 21 personnel, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 2 running backs for you guys that do not understand what 21 personnel is. And he'll come to the sideline and he'll ask Ike, "Hey, Ike, what did you get on this formation?" And Ike would tell him, it was a curl route, big route, corner. Uh-huh. "Hey, B-Mac, what did you get?" And at the time, I'm like, well, Troy, I got like a slant, something generic. At that time, it's not registering to us what he's doing, but he's processing the formation. He's processing the down and distance. And then in the fourth quarter, we don't recognize it. The same exact formation, Troy sees it, and Troy can be in the deep third as the middle safety and go jump a backside 7 cut, which is a corner route. Instantly, it's a play. And we don't see it until the next week when we watch that tape, and we're like, oh, how did he do that?
Uh-huh.
Well, I think the reason he did it is because he's a Hall of Famer. And Troy, talk about that announcement that's coming this week. And I know it's not a guarantee, obviously, but just everything you've done in your career to set yourself up for this point and what that will feel like for you when you get that knock on the door and find out that you're going into the Hall of Fame.
Honestly, for me, I feel a little indifferent for me personally. For my teammates, I feel a tremendous honor and a tribute to them. Like Big Mac was just explaining, there's so many instances within the game where I've even exposed them, and they've like perhaps have given up touchdowns because of mistakes that I've made. Fortunately, we've also made a lot of good plays as well, and those pile up in Super Bowl victories and playoff runs. But to me, it's more of a tribute to my teammates than anything. So B-Mac asked me if I was nervous, about this, and I really am not, because to me, it's not about me. It's about my teammates, and I'm really happy that I'm able to pay tribute to them, even being selected as a finalist. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And it's going to make for a great speech when you are up there in Canton for the Hall of Fame.
Man.
Let's talk about the Super Bowl a little bit. Let's talk about that quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. We've all seen the commercials with Head and Shoulders, and the hair is down for you. You wore your hair up today, so did I. What's he like? What's he like off camera, Patrick Mahomes? He's
very
easy
special.
guy, easy to get along with?
He's a very special individual. You can sense that there's some sort of greatness that's waiting to come from him. And I definitely sensed that last summer being around him. He's really has like a sort of childlike innocence about him, and yet he still commands that leadership like quarterbacks need to. But I'm really happy to see, the success that he's had this year, that he's in this game. Mm-hmm. We had this whole argument within the commercial: offense wins games, defense wins championships. Unfortunately, we've lost the Super Bowl. Defense underperformed there. Defense performed well in the Super Bowls that we won. Mm-hmm. And he'll be able to prove, how offense wins games. But
sure.
Definitely will be rooting for him on Sunday.
So with that relationship already being established because of the commercials, you believe Kansas City will win Sunday?
I don't know. There's so many different things about both teams that I like. And I definitely have to admit that I a lot of this is hearsay. I get my news from you, from RC, from Ike, a lot of my former teammates and brothers. But I really admire the way the San Francisco organization, I like what John Lynch has done there, really built the foundation of the organization through culture, mm-hmm. which we believe coming from the Steelers organization, and that's really important. And then I really admire Patrick, because I also believe that, our children need somebody who's really good to look up to these days, and he's a great role model himself. So I definitely am rooting for both teams. Honestly, there's so much hard work that goes into each one of these games, and so much sacrifice that not only the players and the families make. It's hard for me to say, like, man, that team's going to win. I just hope the team that deserves a win,
wins,
that put in the time, that put in the sacrifice, wins.
And it's not just the time of the week or 2 weeks, man. This starts all the way back when you're practicing in the spring and whatnot. It goes back a long time. It starts at
the dinner tables, man, when you're with your family and you can't eat what they want to eat. You can't eat what your wife cooks, because you're on a specific diet. You can't go out with your family after games. These are sort of all little sacrifices pile up to days like today. Who really has kind of exemplified that is Tom Brady making these sort of wellness sort of commitments and the film study and those sort of things.
Yeah, I don't know much about that, as you can tell. I eat more than what my family.
Listen, retirement's called the battle versus obesity.
Yeah, okay.
That's all I want to do is
we call it fat ball season. Right, football season. It's fat ball season.
For me, it's year round. Tight ends in this game. Tons of talk about Kelsey and Kittle and what they can do, but covering them is a lot harder to do. And I know that you've covered a lot of great tight ends. In fact, I went back and I looked at how Tony Gonzalez did against you. Mm-hmm. He never scored against the Pittsburgh Steelers when you were on the field. When you look at these tight ends, how hard is it to cover them? How hard is it for a safety to lock on them, especially in a man coverage situation?
For a tight end specifically, it actually requires team defense because they're so integral part. They're the center of the offense, obviously, in the blocking scheme mm-hmm. and the passing schemes. So a lot of the times it's not just the safety that's matching up with him, especially if they're a very talented tight end. Sometimes they'll put him outside as a wide receiver, but linebackers are guarding them as well. And then it's also important, for the D linemen to get their hands up for all these little hitch passes, anything inside. So it really requires a lot of really good team defense because, from blitz packages and whatnot, these are usually the first reads, that the quarterback goes to as well.
Troy, when you look at the Steelers, I don't know how closely you pay attention to the modern-day Steelers, but obviously this past season wasn't exactly great with Ben Roethlisberger getting hurt. When you look at Big Ben, somebody that I'm sure you know pretty well, how do you think he's going to respond from this elbow injury, and how do you think the Steelers move forward going into 2020?
So I think it was obviously a very tough start for them, and I think it was really great for the defense to perform the way they did. I believe the success of the Steeler organization is dependent on the culture within the locker room, team leadership, and the performance of the defense. That's been the key to our success. It's been the key to the success of the Steelers of the 70s. It's just something that permeates the aura of the city, you know. Blue collar, and this is all through culture, this is all through defense. So I'm really happy that the defense performed the way they did late in the season. I'm really happy with the team leadership and how that culture has changed and really kind of brought that to fruition. And obviously with the addition of Ben and hopefully a lot more talent coming on the offensive side, that they'll be able to make a good run next year.
Talking about the defense, I know we all basically saw the change with the defense when they acquired Micah Fitzpatrick. Outstanding safety via trade from Miami. Very, very instinctive. Ball hawking safety. And some people in the Pittsburgh area said he kind of reminded them of you. I don't know how much you've seen from him, but just talk about the impact that he had in the secondary when he got to Pittsburgh.
When you have first of all, I think he's a tremendous safety. I think that was a really great move for the organization to make. Anytime you have a defensive-led team, that sort of turnover is so huge, you know. And for him to come up with 6 interceptions, man, it's hard to come up with interceptions generally, you know, in the league. So for him to be able to do that, I think, is really awesome, and has been a key to really to the success of the defense.
Troy, you sort of alluded to this with the Mahomes question, but you said it, offense wins games, defense wins championships. Talk about what you're doing with Head and Shoulders and sort of how that cliche sort of fits in as well.
Yeah, we've had a great partnership throughout the years. It's nice that, you know, I'm still with them. Hair hasn't gone too gray in retirement, you know, and it's all still there. But it's provided a great opportunity for me to meet Patrick as well. It's been a great company to work with. Procter & Gamble's really great. We have a commercial coming out again this Super Bowl, which, you know, talking with my wife, I think it's like maybe my 4th or 5th Super Bowl commercial, which is quite an honor as well. So it's a really great partnership, not only with Procter & Gamble, with Head & Shoulders.
Well, we appreciate you taking some time to join us here. Not only one 2-time Super Bowl champion, two 2-time Super Bowl champions, and future Hall of Famer, hopefully as early as this weekend. Thank you for taking the time to join us here in Fantasy Football Today. Coming up next, we're going to get into some DFS talk, looking at some good buys and bad buys on Fanduel, and some players that can help you win some money for Super Bowl 54. Stay right here to Fantasy Football Today on CBS Sports HQ. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today, coming to you live from Radio Row here at the Miami Beach Convention Center on South Beach. South Florida, Miami, home of Super Bowl 54, when the Chiefs and the 49ers will compete to crown the next Super Bowl champion of the NFL. We've already got our fantasy champions, but we're still going to help you win some money. For any of you that like to take part in any DFS action on Fanduel and Draftkings, we're going to spend some time on Fanduel right now. And 2 guys joining us on the set here, replacing, I mean, let's face it, you guys are awesome. But we just lost 4 Super Bowl rings with Brian McFadden and Troy Polamalu stepping off set. But Adam Mazer, Heath Cummings joining me and Dave here on Fantasy Football Today. So we're talking Fanduel here. We're going to give you some good buys and bad buys as we look at the showdown for Super Bowl 54. So we'll start with the good. And we're going to each give a player that we like and a player that we may want to avoid. And a lot of it has to do with pricing. A lot of it has to do with matchup situations. But we'll get right into it now. So, Dave, who's your good buy on Fanduel?
Let's talk about that pricing, because it's important between the 2 sites to know where to go if you want to play a specific player. And Tyreek Hill is $11,000 on DraftKings, only $1,000 more on Fanduel. And you get more money to spend on Fanduel with less spots to fill. So I think Tyreek Hill is a good play on Fanduel. And I love the fact that the 49ers have allowed multiple touchdowns to wide receivers in 4 of their past 6 games. Here comes one of the fastest ones in the National Football League.
Adam, you've been a little bit concerned about Tyreek Hill this week, and for those of you that haven't been paying attention, you can either find it on CBS Sports HQ, you can find it on our podcast. We spend a lot of time breaking down each position, so for a little bit more in-depth conversation on each spot, you can check out those previous shows from the week. But you've been a little bit concerned about Tyreek Hill, right, Adam?
I think he's going to have a good game, but I think that you just can't ignore the fact that he hasn't really had big yardage. He's really relying on touchdowns. We're looking at 55 to 72 yards in all 5 of his games since coming back from injury the second time when he left that game early against the Chargers. But I do like him. I have him in my lineups, but I think it's a tight end game. I like Kelce and Kittle a lot. I think they're better values. I wouldn't say I'm concerned about Tyreek Hill. I'm seeing that, they're throwing to Damian Williams. Obviously, Kelce's a very big part of it. I'm seeing the numbers, and the numbers are he has not been that true stud since that second injury that he was earlier in the year and really last year.
Okay, so a little contrarian side of things on what to do with Tyreek Hill, who's a good buy for you.
It's Kittle. I mean, Kittle's cheaper on FanDuel. He is $11,500, and Hill's $12,000. Kelce's $12,500. So Kittle's the cheapest of those 3, and I don't think the Chiefs are good. I know they're not good against tight ends. This is the second best tight end in football, at least from an offensive standpoint. So I think he's going to have a huge game. If Garoppolo has to throw, and I think he will have to throw, he'll throw more times in this game than he has in the previous 2 combined. Kittle will be the biggest beneficiary of that.
You share that same sentiment that this is going to be a 49ers passing game that we see, or it's going to be a 49ers run game like we've seen the last 2 playoff games?
I think they would like for it to be a run game. It's going to depend on how that first quarter and a half goes. If they can get some stops against the Kansas City offense, I really don't think they're probably going to. I do agree. I think they're going to throw more, definitely than they did last week, more than they have so far in the playoffs. I would expect, again, I think one of the things you said, it's a tight end game. Almost every lineup I've built, whether it was on FanDuel or DraftKings, has both Kelce and Kittle in the lineup.
So how do you differentiate things? How do we sort of separate ourselves here to help people? If everybody's going to play Kittle, everybody's going to play Kelce.
We're all just going to share the winnings. We're all going to win.
It'd be nice if we all shared the winnings. I mean, there's lots of people that are going to share the winnings. Who's a good buy for you, and maybe somebody that's a little bit different?
Yeah, a little bit different. It's Sammy Watkins. And we talked about with Tyreek Hill in his last 5 games, I don't think he's gone over 72 yards. Sammy Watkins has been over 72 yards in both of their playoff games. We know the 49ers defense. I feel confident they have the ability to take away one of the Chiefs' weapons, like their first choice to take away. They're a good defense. They could maybe even take away their second choice, and someone like Travis Kelce for a part of the game. They can't take everyone away, though. And that's what we've seen in the playoffs is teams want to try to take Tyreek Hill away. The Chiefs are okay with that. They'll just throw it 10 times to Sammy Watkins like they did last game.
I want to talk about Watkins because there was some news yesterday that he said he may sit out next year. Next year may be his last year with the Chiefs. He's entering a season where he's owed $14 million. It's going to be a contract year for him. We see this all the time. Guys go into these big spotlight games and they know either contracts on the line or, as we saw with Jerome Bettis when he was playing in his hometown of his Super Bowl, as we found out earlier this week, he wanted to go out with a bang. Does this help Sammy Watkins' case? Maybe he's thinking about the future more than the game. Any concern in that regard about Sammy Watkins for any of you?
No, not really. My concern is the price. It's interesting because he is a good contrarian play, but he's also very expensive. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think his mind's on the game. That doesn't factor in for me.
I think there is a better chance that it helps and provides a little bit of motivation and he makes that one huge play than there is that he's distracted. I mean, he wants to go win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the 49ers play more zone than any team in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes has a ton of success playing against the zone, but they don't give up a lot of big plays. So that's something we're going to have to see if, in fact, he does get behind the defense like we saw each of the previous 2 games for the Chiefs in the playoffs. So we have as our good buys here on FanDuel, Tyreek Hill, George Kittle, and Sammy Watkins. Let's transition now to the bad buys on FanDuel. And again, a lot of this is price, not necessarily performance, but Dave, we'll start with you. Who's somebody that you're maybe trying to avoid?
I'm not excited about using Tevin Coleman on FanDuel. He's $10,000. That's a lot for a running back who's not going to be a full-time guy. We know he's going to split. We don't even know if he's going to be 100% for the game. Maybe he scores a touchdown. Maybe he catches a couple of passes. Maybe he touches the ball 10 times. I can't spend that much on him on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he's $3,600 cheaper. I'd rather go get him there.
I think he could have almost no role. He was also my bad buy. If you want another one, I think it's Garoppolo on FanDuel. Huge difference in his price between FanDuel and DraftKings, but totally with you on Coleman. No thanks.
Let's talk about Coleman for a second because we know he's dealing with the shoulder injury. Reports are that he's trending in the right direction. What if, though? What if it's the game we saw, 2 playoff games ago for San Francisco when they played against Minnesota, and it was his show. He was the one with the majority of carries, had 22 carries in the game, had over 100 yards, scored a touchdown. And maybe the plan going into the playoffs, I'm sure things have changed, but going into the playoffs, Kyle Shanahan was like, let me rely on the guy who I know has been there before, has played in the Super Bowl before. What if he's 100% healthy, Heath? Would you be a contrarian and maybe try Tevin Coleman?
I'd rather play Tevin Coleman than Raheem Mostert for sure, because that scares me if Tevin Coleman's active in this game. I mean, you look at the snap percentages for these guys, and last week Mostert played 82% of the snaps. He hadn't been over 55% in his last 5 games, even when he was going through this good stretch. And if you think the game script is the Chiefs score points and Jimmy Garoppolo has to throw more passes, during this stretch of elevated play for Raheem Mostert, he has more than 2 targets 0 times. He's only has 4 targets even once all season long. So if they fall behind, I don't think he's the guy that's going to benefit from that. It's much more likely to be Tevin Coleman.
Could it be in that same vein Matt Breida? Because if Coleman's not right and Mostert's not trusted in the passing game, could it be a Breida game if they're chasing points and having to throw out of the backfield and use one of those guys as a pass
I mean,
guy?
no one's going to see that coming. It would be a little strange if that
No one
ended
saw
up being the
Mostert doing
guy.
that last week either, or Coleman doing that the week
But we've seen
before.
Mostert put up some
Not
good
this,
numbers
not
before.
this.
Not
No
that,
one-
and that's why his
Yeah.
price is so high, and that's why I can't even say, well, Tevin Coleman's 10,000.
Why is
and now
Mostert not the
he's
bad buy?
Mostert. He is. He's just as bad of a buy because he's 13-5,
I'll
and
tell
we
you-
know that he's going to split.
I'm not playing him either, but he's not a bad buy because he's awesome. He does it every single week. His yards per carry has been off the charts. He's extremely fast. He's just been better than Tevin Coleman. I don't understand why they went back to Tevin Coleman in that first playoff game and in the second playoff game.
In the first playoff game, Coleman was great.
He was great. In the second playoff game, they started Coleman. He got the first series. Mostert got the second. Coleman got the third. That's why I'm terrified of both of them. But Mostert has just been so good. I mean,
Well, he's
tough
been
matchup.
I think we should clarify because he's been really, really good on a per carry basis, like his whole
Yeah.
career, and he's
Yeah.
been really good this year when they give him the ball. But yardage-wise, he's not been anywhere close to a $12,000 running
work.
back.
But you got to
He
feel
doesn't get
gotta
those
feel
touches most of the time.
somewhat confident that he's going to score.
I have no confidence that he's going to score. I have no confidence that he's going to lead the
unless
team.
Coleman's out.
I have no confidence he leads the team in rushing.
Prior to the Minnesota game, he had 8 touchdowns in a 6-game stretch.
Yeah.
And then he had 4 against Green
And he
Bay.
had 4 against Green
Yeah.
Bay. So he does have a pretty good track record in the second half of the season and into the playoffs of finding the end zone. And I think that's what you have to hope for if you are spending the money on him. It just feels like this is such a wild card, this entire backfield.
Oh, yeah.
And it would not be a surprise if Coleman limited, inactive potentially, that we do see Matt Breida be the one
Oh, I think so, yeah.
and come in. Like you said, you'd rather play Coleman. Why not rather play Breida?
I would rather play Coleman and Breida than Mostert. So I would rank them Coleman, Breida, and then Mostert because I think you're right. Because you said nobody's going to see that coming. You asked, how do we differentiate ourselves by doing something that nobody was going to see coming?
You're taking a risk that you get a 0 in your lineup with Breida.
You're going to have to do that
Well, it
with at
depends.
least one lineup spot.
It depends. Do you want to win big?
Right.
Do you want to win middle, or do you want to win nothing? Because if you want to win big, you got to take some chances. Because for everybody that's playing, there's 2 teams. It's a limited talent pool here. So
Yeah, I will guarantee whoever wins the big tournaments will have at least 1 and probably 2 players that you say, he could have taken a 0.
Sure.
It's just, but the guy they choose is going to be the guy that gets into the end zone or has a long run.
It'll be a Kendrick Bourne MVP spot. It will be a, I didn't want to say like a backup quarterback because I don't want that to happen.
Right.
It'd be something crazy. And I know like one guy that you like, we'll talk about coming up in a little bit when we get into props, Kyle Juszczyk. Somebody
Exactly,
like that
yeah.
having a 2-touchdown game. All right, let's take a look at our lineups here on FanDuel, and we'll start with Dave here. Who's the lineup that you're using? Who's your MVP?
MVP is going to be Tyreek Hill, and I think that's how you can differentiate. I think a lot of people are going to be skittish about using Hill. Adam talked about why, and I think that Tyreek Hill is somebody who could end up being a problem there. Mahomes also is somebody that you can consider in the MVP spot. I think Garoppolo and his fact that he's going to end up having to throw the ball in this game, and that's another reason to stay away from the running backs. I think Garoppolo can end up being good, and McCole Hardman is the guy that I'm just going to slide into the end of my lineup. Somebody who's cheap on FanDuel, who I think can help me out. High upside type of play.
All right, so Tyreek Hill is Dave's MVP. Adam, who is your MVP on FanDuel?
Travis Kelce is my MVP, and I have Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, George Kittle, and Emmanuel Sanders, who has really done nothing lately. I think if you're looking at passing numbers from anybody on the 49ers, you just throw out the last 2 games. They threw a combined 27 times. So I'm just playing that, the Chiefs are going to put up some points, and Sanders is going to benefit from the 49ers probably being behind and having to throw. But Kelce is my MVP.
Sanders is definitely an interesting one. Another player entering free agency. Heath, your lineup on FanDuel. Your MVP is who?
Well, all the MVPs are Chiefs. That's a good sign. Damian Williams is my MVP. We got Patrick Mahomes and then the 2 tight ends. And again, that is so chalky with those 4. I don't know that Williams and the MVP will be, but those 4 are going to be in a lot of lineups. So you got to find one guy that gets into the end zone that nobody's expected to. I'm going Kyle Juszczyk. I think on a wheel route, maybe a 45-yard touchdown pass.
45 yards. Wow. That would help Jimmy Garoppolo as well.
You know how many people are going to have to fall down for him to run 45 yards for a touchdown?
No, everybody else goes the other direction. Yeah.
Fast. That can move. I'm going to go with Mahomes in the MVP spot. Garoppolo as a flex as well. It's going to look a little similar to something that we might have just seen. Both tight ends with Kelsey and Kittle, and then Mecole Hardman as the flex spot. I agree with Dave. I think he's somebody that could be a difference maker just based on his speed. Tyreek Hill on media night said Sammy Watkins is the fastest wide receiver on the team. I think it could be Mecole Hardman pushing Tyreek Hill for two of the fastest guys on the Chiefs. When we come back, we're going to take a look at, we're going to talk to somebody who is very popular among the fantasy audience. It's our buddy Josh Jacobs, Oakland Raiders rookie running back. Going to join us here on Fantasy Football Today. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. As they said, yes, right down 995 from our studios in Fort Lauderdale. We're down here on South Beach. Coverage of Super Bowl 54 here on Radio Row at the Miami Beach Convention Center, heading into the big game just 2 days away when the Chiefs and the 49ers will meet to decide the next Super Bowl champion. And one guy who helped you maybe win some fantasy championships, it's Josh Jacobs, rookie running back here of the Oakland Raiders. We can only call you rookie running back for so much longer because you've exceeded that already. You've graduated from your rookie season. But Josh, before we move on to 2020, let's talk about 2019. You're up for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Talk about this year that you just had and just everything you were able to accomplish in your first year with the Raiders.
Honestly, it's been an amazing year. It's probably been one of the fastest years I've ever had. I feel like, and I learned a lot, but I also feel like I left a lot on the table. So, I mean, that's my main focus coming into next year, is just trying to improve from this year.
So what would you have done differently?
Yeah.
I would say that I would take a little more care of, like, the details, the small details, or, like, whether it's pressing the line all the way or following the right track and just trusting in my blockers and things like that. I mean, things that you kind of have to get comfortable with, especially when coming into a new team. And that's probably the biggest things I would say.
It's amazing to think that you can improve on what you did last year, 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns. But we know you can do it because we've seen other running backs do it, and we know you're just as talented as that. And now I'm starting to sound like John Gruden because John is going to be the one that's going to try and pump you up and get you excited and ready to go. What was it like playing for him and knowing that he was putting so much on your plate?
He was, man, I mean, I tell people all the time, like, the dude that you see on TV is literally how he is every day. He brings that energy literally every day. I mean, he's one knock on wood every day. Like literally, he's like one of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet. And I mean, like I said, he's a player's coach. He rarely gets on to the players like too crazy. But I mean, we love playing for him. He listens to us, whether it's like, man, our bodies is hurting this week. Like, can we tone it down in practice? I mean, he does all of that. So I mean, I love to do it.
I'm glad you brought up, your body hurting in a particular week because you dealt with some injuries, and I wanted to ask you about the workload. I think you had 251 carries in 3 years at Alabama and 242 last year as a rookie, and you had the shoulder issue. So how difficult was that? And, did you learn enough where you think you'll be able to handle that workload going forward?
Honestly, every time that I got hurt this year, I kind of did it to myself.
Really?
It was never a time where I feel like I got hurt, like getting tackled or anything. It's always like me, like, instead of just juking the guy or going out of bounds, I did it a little extra. So, I mean, that's just what comes with it. A lot of running backs been talking to me about that, like, just how to play smarter. But at the end of the day, I feel like I'm an ultimate competitor. So I'm going to play how I play, and however it turned out, it's just how it turned out. Yeah.
All right, but you feel like the workload wasn't the problem?
I don't think it was. I don't think, because it was a lot of games where I left the game and I was great. You know what I'm saying? Until the shoulder injury, that was the only time I kind of, after the game, I was like, iffy, because you obviously you feel that the next day, but besides that, I feel like I was pretty good.
There was one game in particular you left, and it seemed as if you were really on your way to a great game. It was the first game against the Chiefs. Yeah, you had 12 carries, 99 yards. It was almost set up to be a monster game. When you look at this Chiefs run defense, they've changed a lot, really.
They've changed a lot.
It was almost essentially since one of your former Alabama running back, Derrick Henry, ripped through them in Week 10, and ever since then they've been sort of locked down. Yeah. What's your impression of the Chiefs run defense from the time you faced them into what you're seeing right now?
Well, I know that it changed a lot from the first time I played them and the second time. You could feel them more aggressive. Like, you could feel them starting to, like, get hungry, and everybody flying to the ball, and, like, they feed off energy. At the beginning of the year, it wasn't that way. I mean, right now, Honey Badger's going crazy. The D-line's going crazy. They linebackers is talking and they backing it up. I have a lot of respect for them and their team.
242 carries last year. Adam brought that up. 20 catches. We sat on our studio week after week saying, when is Josh Jacobs going to catch more passes? And when's he going to do that? So what about that? Could that be an added element to your game in 2020?
Yeah, I think it's more of just trusting it. And I don't know if the coaches exactly trusted that with me early. I know I caught in camp, I probably literally dropped one pass, and that was like on the last day of camp. Because I remember my coach jinxed me, but yeah. But I mean, it's definitely something that I plan on doing more next year, and even this off season I'm working on, just so I could take that next step.
Awesome.
So I want to go back to a Gruden question here, because it sounds, the way you were describing him, players, coach, never that hard, it sounds a lot like Nick Saban, right?
Yeah.
I actually wanted you to contrast the two. I imagine you had pretty different styles of coaches.
It's definitely two different styles of coaching. Saban doesn't talk as much. And when he's vocal, you know what I'm saying? But I say they have a lot of similar qualities. Both want to win. I mean, both love the game. We're like real students of the game. And I mean, you can feel it. You can feel that competitive spirit in both of them. I would say that Gruden, he's more funny though, man. Gruden, he interacts. He's like electric. Like each day, he brings energy that makes you like want to be there. You know. So I mean, I really respect that. And I mean, Saban, he's literally everything down to the detail. Whether it's like he eats the same thing throughout the week. He like has the same schedule, like so routine with everything. So, I mean, it's been fun learning and playing for both.
Josh, talk about the Alabama running backs in the NFL. I mean, it's a pretty good fraternity to be a part of. You just had Derrick Henry win the rushing title. Mark Ingram's coming off a strong run. There's so many of you guys. What's that like to be part of that legacy? You could throw Alvin Kamara in there, too. He was there for a little bit. Just what's it like to be part of that legacy of these Alabama running backs, and what makes you guys so successful in the NFL?
Oh, man. I mean, I knew coming in that it's been a stigma about Alabama running backs. And just to see how good we all did this year. I mean, Kenyon, everybody. Even Bo Scarborough at the end of the year, he started turning it on, everything. I mean, it's been amazing. And just to see the work ethic and things that I know that we all been through together, I mean, it's been huge. And me just trying to live up to that standard. We call it the Alabama standard. We all in a group chat with our running back coach from college. He literally critiques us every week, like whether it's film and everything. So man, it's a family, really.
Who would win, your best team in Alabama or the LSU team that just won the national championship?
Man, look, this LSU team was different. I give them credit. Yeah, they was different. But my freshman year's team, I've never been on a team like that, where the whole defense, like when we had Reuben Foster, like Deron, like everybody, that defense. I remember my freshman year coming in, I'm like, I got to go up against these guys every day. Like, I mean, I don't think I've ever played on a team like that.
Must have made you a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that definitely, like, jumped my development, and it gave me confidence to feel like I can play, you know what I'm saying? So that, I mean, it was huge for me.
So, Josh, you're really natural on the camera right now. And I know there was a big story about, you're hiding from the cameras on Hard Knocks. Yeah. What was that all about?
So I was getting followed by, like, 3 different camera crews, like, for the 3 months beforehand, and it was like just kind of like overwhelming, and it was like, all right, now it's time for football, and it's like I wanted to focus on one thing. I didn't really care about getting attention or anything like that. I just wanted to put myself in the best position possible to succeed this year. So I went to Mayock and I asked him, I said, man, is there any way that you can keep me off this? He said, yeah, man. He said, man, you don't know how much I love you for coming to ask me that. He was like, he said, yeah, I'm gonna take care of you. You don't gotta be the dude to be the bad guy about it or anything. Like, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. So I mean, they looked out for me. I focused on my playbook and becoming a better player. So it was dope.
Worked out well for you, for sure. Talk about the rookies in this class. We'll focus on the running backs. It's a pretty good group. I mean, yourself, Miles Sanders, Devin Singletary. Some tough competition for you to be the best of those guys. Do you feel like you're the best, and how do you sort of shake up when you look at this class?
I don't like to do that, honestly. I don't like.
Please.
I don't know. I don't.
We need to help with our fantasy rankings. You know
what I'm saying? Like, I don't like to compare myself and be like I'm the best, because I think that all of them are great running backs, and I think that a lot of them don't get the recognition that they deserve. And I'm just happy to be here and happy to be mentioned with everybody. And I mean, it's some guys. And I think from like 2 to 3 years from now, you would be like, wow, that draft class actually has some beasts. You know what I'm saying? So I don't like to do that. We'll kind of see how it play out. I mean, I'm happy for Miles. I talked to him last night and his success, and I wish everybody the best.
So as Adam alluded to, we need help with our fantasy rankings. And a lot of the audience, this is a fantasy football show, a lot of the audience that's watching you is going to want to draft you. So I want you to do me a favor. I want you to look into that camera right there. And I want you to tell all the people that are watching that play fantasy why they should draft you in 2020.
I say you should draft me in 2020 because I'm finna have the best year yet. And it's a lot of things that I feel like I left on the field. And I'm coming after everything this year, most definitely.
1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns, not enough.
It's not.
Let's double it.
Not enough.
14 touchdowns, 27 yards. Let's go crazy.
Literally, I mean, I remember at times after the game, and I was like, my coach like, man, be happy. And I'm like, nah, man, like I should have had this, like literally, bro. I've missed so many yards on the field. So for me, it's just about executing everything.
And it's not about the number at the end of the day.
Yeah,
it's about missing a hole or it's something that happened.
Yeah,
that
literally.
Maybe we aren't aware of because we're not running the football, but something that you make a mistake on the field.
Yeah.
You think you make a mistake. And that bothers you. So I kind of understand that it's not about the number. It's about the execution of how you're playing.
Yeah, so the thing that people don't know is like passing assignments this year, I was like 90%. You know what I'm saying? Like and that was only the beginning of the year where I missed a couple.
Mm-hmm.
None of them led to sacks, but
thank goodness.
Yeah, thank goodness.
That would have been bad.
Yeah, literally. But I mean, I'm just trying to be an overall player, like all around everything. You know what I'm saying? So that's my goal. I mean, I feel like the little things that I messed up on is very correctable. So,
and you would take more playing time if you could get it, too, along the way, right?
Always, of course.
Right. We'll take that. Look, we can't have a Raider up here without asking about David's favorite player. He is a big Darren Waller guy. All right, so tell him something about Darren Waller.
Man, you want me to tell him or him to tell me?
Josh, tell Dave.
So we call him D-Wall. That's actually his rap name.
Oh.
So what people don't know is, he's like legit. Like he can actually, I'm not saying this like just because he's my teammate, but he's actually like, he can rap and things like that, but he's also like one of the cool, most humblest dudes ever. He's actually been teaching me, like helping me like on how to keep up with your body and things like that. Like he's like big on that, and he's just a freak, man. I've never seen a dude that big and that graceful. You know what I'm saying? Like it's crazy. I mean, I have fun. He makes catches at practice that I'm like, you just stop and watch, and you just like, wow, you know what I'm saying? So I can't wait for him to really get to showcase everything that he's able to do.
Yeah, I feel like he left numbers on the field, too.
Yeah.
He could have been an even bigger target in the red zone, but then that might have taken touchdowns away from him. we got a balancing act to do here.
Josh, talk about the move to Vegas. I mean, I know a big move coming for the organization, big move coming for you. What's that going to be like going to, a city that everybody's going to be watching, making sure nobody steps out of line, but just playing in that atmosphere because they really embrace the hockey team. It seems like they're so excited. I was just out there last week. They're so excited about you guys moving out there. What's that going to be like for you?
Man, I think it's going to be great. From a marketing standpoint, it's an untapped market. So I've been getting a lot of deals and things like that. For me personally, I loved Oakland because of the culture I feel and the fans. Man, the fans is crazy. And they like real, like regardless if we was doing good or we was doing bad, like they're like real fans, diehard fans. But Vegas, man, it's a lot cheaper. It's tax-free, you know what I'm saying? So from a business standpoint, I mean, I would say it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And just from the fan appreciation that
the fan appreciation, man, that's what I love. But I know one thing about Oakland fans, they travel. And it's not that far of a flight. It's like 45-minute flight. So I know that the crowds and the numbers still going to be good. But it's going to be different. It's definitely going to be different. Like I'm in search of a house. Okay. I'm actually got to do that next week. And I'm trying to stay like 25, 30 minutes away from the strip, like away from everything.
That's where you're at.
You know what you need to do? You need to find the places that you send the visiting team the night before the game. That's like an old trick, right?
Adam. That's called the strip.
Well, there's going to be certain places, certain clubs. Hey, hook these guys up. Keep them out till 4 in the morning.
I'm sure they'll be part of that. Before we let you go, we want to talk to you about Sleep Number, but tell us who's going to win the Super Bowl this week.
Man, I told myself I really don't want to be biased because I have friends on both. But I don't know, man. It's like 49ers is like complete. They looking complete right now. But then again, it's like, how can you go against Patty? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like it's such a toss-up. I think it's going to be a good game, man. I'm going to be there. I'm looking forward to watching it.
You got a team in the 49ers likes to run the ball, which I'm sure makes you happy.
Yeah.
You got a team you got to face twice a year. You don't want to make them unhappy. So
Exactly.
I understand why you're towing both lines. So tell us about Sleep Number, what you're doing with them.
Man, I mean, so Sleep Number, I've partnered with them since last year, since I came into the draft. I mean, and I literally love their beds. It's weird because I tell people all the time, it's weird going and sleeping on the bed the whole week and then having to travel and sleep on a hotel bed, and you literally feel the difference like you do. And I mean, I feel like it keeps me rejuvenated. It keeps me like mentally fresh. Every night I feel like when I wake up, I hit that like reset button. And that's huge for me in my position, especially like with getting hit so much and things like that, like the healing process and things like that. So I mean, I've been really grateful and honored to partner with them.
Yeah, it's like a home team advantage. What's your I've got a Sleep Number too.
Yeah.
What's your number?
So mine's is 35, but
Oh, wow.
I go from 35 to 40. Like I kind of stay in that range, but I like to move. Like my bed moves up and down and everything, so I try to find the best, most comfortable spot ever. So it's dope.
Well, we appreciate Sleep Number. You keeping you rested, keeping you fresh, keeping you ready to go for the 2020 season. Josh Jacobs, thank you for taking the time with us.
Thank you, man.
On Fantasy Football Today. When we come back, we're going to get into some Draftkings good buys and bad buys for the Super Bowl. Give you some players that can help you win some money, as we like to always do here. Stay right here to Fantasy Football Today. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. We're live here from Radio Row at the Miami Beach Convention Center, South Beach, Miami, Florida, home of Super Bowl 54, where the Chiefs and 49ers will meet. And a new champion will be crowned, but we want to give you a chance to maybe have some success of your own based around the game as we give you some good buys and bad buys here based on some lineups you could build on DraftKings. We already gave you the good buys and bad buys on Fanduel. You can check that out on our podcast, wherever podcasts are found. You can also go back and watch the shows on demand on CBS Sports HQ. Let's start with the good buys here on DraftKings here. So, Dave, your good buy on Fanduel was Tyreek Hill. Your good buy on DraftKings this year.
I'm going to go to the other team in George Kittle. I think Kittle's value at $8,400. It's cheaper than Travis Kelce. The Chiefs have allowed a touchdown to a tight end in 3 straight games. You know he's going to be involved in the offense. I think that George Kittle can beat man or zone defense, whatever the Chiefs throw at him, and I think he ends up having a great game. He's going to be in all my DraftKings lineups.
You know who's even less expensive than George Kittle? Jimmy Garoppolo. There's such a big difference between Garoppolo on FanDuel versus on DraftKings. So Garoppolo to me is the easy call. He's so much cheaper than Patrick Mahomes. He's the good buy on DraftKings.
There's a reason he's so much cheaper than Patrick Mahomes.
Heath has become a lot more formal here.
I've got thoughts on this.
Are you interviewing me, Heath?
Yes, no.
You can.
Do you have a 49er?
Yes.
Okay, who's your 49er?
George Kittle.
All right, George Kittle. So we have a lot of love here for the 49ers passing game for a quarterback that threw 8 times last week. And you sort of alluded to this when we were talking about FanDuel. If the 49ers have their way, they're going to probably try to do the same thing that they've done the last 2 playoff games. Why would you go away from that? Lean on your defense, lean on your ground game. Ground game's been fantastic. They have one of the best fullbacks in the NFL. They have one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL. So they don't necessarily have to throw the ball. And what we've seen from the Chiefs in the first 2 playoff games, a 24-point deficit and a 10-point deficit. If they get down double digits against the 49ers, it's going to be tough for them to sort of do these heroic efforts one more time. So if we're liking the passing game so much for the 49ers, why?
Because I think they're going to be trailing in the game. At some point, they're going to have to overcome that. I do think that they win. Maybe it's going to be a little more back and forth.
But nothing has suggested that from the 2 playoff games that we've seen.
But 16 regular season games.
Exactly.
We can't overreact to the 2 playoff games because that was like the extreme version of the 49ers.
But you're also, now
offense.
you're having an extreme version of the Chiefs and falling behind. And so,
so I don't think either one's going to happen, to be quite honest.
I will say this.
Not big, not falling behind.
The problem I have with the running backs is I don't know which one it's going to be this week, especially if Coleman's. I like Kittle because I know a high percentage of their throws are going to him. I feel confident in his position. I don't really like the 49ers. I don't like
that
Garoppolo.
Could be 1 of 8 or 2 of 8.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, honestly, how many pass attempts would you give Garoppolo?
I'm in agreement with you, but I have to sort of play both sides of this.
But you don't get to give your opinion as much in that chair. So I would like to know, because you had Garoppolo in your FanDuel lineup too. I want to know what you expect from him.
I think it's going to be a back and forth game. I don't think the Chiefs are going to get down too much, and if they do, I think it's going to be 10 points like we saw against the Titans, and I think they'll be able to throw their way back into this. I also think that we're going to see an aggressive 49ers attack. I don't think it's just going to be come out and hand the ball off to Mostert, hand the ball off to Coleman. I think we're going to see a situation where they come out throwing a little bit more and maybe get the Chiefs on their heels a little bit because they're expecting them to run. Everybody's expecting the Chiefs to have to defend the run and the 49ers to come out and lean on Mostert. And I think we're going to see, hey, we got this guy for a reason at Garoppolo. He could throw the ball. We've seen that in the Saints game, for example. We saw it in some other matchups throughout the course of the season. They have some pretty good weapons, as we know, Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Emmanuel Sanders. So I think they are going to be a little bit of a, some gamesmanship here from Kyle Shanahan. But they're still going to try and run the ball as much as they can. And so I think it's just interesting that it's all in on the 49ers passing attack for a situation that we have not seen them be as successful. So we have both you guys going with George Kittle and Jimmy Garoppolo going with the 49ers in their passing attack. And as we sort of highlighted here throughout the show, difference on pricing between Fanduel and Draftkings for Garoppolo specifically makes it a little bit more attractive to use him on Draftkings. The bad buys on Draftkings, Dave, who you got?
I've got Mostert. So we're going to go right back to what we were talking about, and that's who's going to run the ball and how much are they going to be able to run it in the game. Check this out. Against the Ravens, not a high-scoring game. Garoppolo only had 21 attempts. Against the Saints, very high-scoring game. Garoppolo threw it 35 times. Against Atlanta, 34 attempts. Rams, another high-scoring game, 27 attempts. Point is that they will put the ball in the air if it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think we all agree that this is not going to be a defensive tussle back and forth between these two squads. Raheem Mostert will get some carries, will get a couple of catches maybe. I don't think he's worth the price here. Kansas City just held Melvin Gordon, Derrick Henry, and Carlos Hyde to under 4 yards per carry in each of their last 3 games.
My bad buy is Sammy Watkins, and even though in a previous segment I agreed with Heath that he was a good contrarian play, I still think you got to look at the track record. Since week 1 and before the playoffs, he was useless. He was really bad, and now he's being priced pretty high. So I'm avoiding Sammy Watkins on DraftKings. I guess he is a good contrarian play, but that's about it. That's all I'm going to give him. In the postseason, he had 2 targets against Houston. I know he had 76 yards, but he had 2 targets, and then he had a big game against Tennessee. But I'm not going with Watkins.
I don't like him quite as much on DraftKings, actually, as I do on Fanduel, because of the full PPR. I don't know how many passes he's going to catch, but my bad buy is actually Tyreek Hill. I just think $11,000 is just too much for. We don't know that he's going to see increased involvement. I still have to think that the 49ers look at this Chiefs offense. And
we're having a hard time with your audio. So Tyreek Hill is the guy you're trying to avoid. We'll hopefully get that fixed as we go through the lineups here. So let's start with the lineups here that we're looking at on DraftKings. Dave, who you going with?
I wanted to get both tight ends in my lineup, and I wanted one of them to be in the captain. I went with Travis Kelce to be in the captain spot. He's going to cost you $14,400 to do it, but I think that it's going to be worth it for him. I think he's got the chance to have a slightly better game than George Kittle. And Mahomes and Garoppolo are there too. I'm playing right into what I think is going to happen. High-scoring game where both of these quarterbacks end up putting the ball in the air. Robbie Gould, I had to go cheap for my last 2 spots, so I'm going quarterbacks and kickers. So Gould and McCole Hardman, they combine for $6,200. I think they'll get me some points.
All right, Adam, let's take a look at your lineup here on DraftKings. The captain spot for you would be who?
Oh, Travis Kelce, Dave. Hey. Good call. Captain Kelce. I have both quarterbacks, Mahomes and Garoppolo. I have both tight ends.
We have almost the exact same lineup, except you've got the Chiefs defense.
Yeah, I got the Chiefs defense. Sometimes Garoppolo gets a little turnover prone. We know they have a really good pass rush. So, Chiefs defense, why not? They're cheap. Let's go with it.
All right, we'll try and see if Heath's microphone is working. Heath, who is your captain spot here on DraftKings?
Just all the things I said about my FanDuel lineup, I'm going to say my DraftKings lineup, because it's very, very similar. But Damian Williams, again, in the captain spot. You got Mahomes, Kelce, and Kittle. Kyle Juszczyk, just like in FanDuel. And then Kendrick Bourne, 3,400 to score 1 touchdown.
I like how you guys went with George Kittle as your good buy, because I'm going to use him as my captain. I think George Kittle will come out and have a big game. I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill as one of the flex spots, Travis Kelce as well. I think we're going to see some back and forth between these two teams. So Kittle is my favorite pass catcher. No surprise there for the 49ers. Hill and Kelce should have a lot of opportunities to make some plays. Damian Williams as well. I'll go Robbie Gould and then Demarcus Robinson, just with the hope that whether him or Mecole Hardman, one of these guys I think has a chance to make some big plays. We'll see how that goes. So there's your coverage of DraftKings good buys, bad buys, and a lineup for you, for all of us, and a lineup for you from all of us on FanDuel as well. Again, you can check that out on our podcast as well as on demand on CBS Sports HQ. Coming up next, we're going to get to talk to one of the best running backs in the NFL. Maybe you heard of him. He just happens to be the rushing champion for the 2019 season. Derrick Henry's going to join us here coming up next on Fantasy Football Today. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today, live here from Radio Row at the Miami Beach Convention Center, talking about Super Bowl 54 coming up on Sunday when the Chiefs meet the 49ers to decide the next Super Bowl champion. And we've had a fun week here on Radio Row. Lots of fun guests have joined us to talk to us here, not just on Fantasy Football Today, but all throughout the week on CBS Sports HQ. And there's nobody better Then the rushing champion from the 2019 season, Tennessee Titans running back Derrick Henry. I'm Jamie Eisenberg, Dave Richard, Adam Azer. Derrick, when you walk around here, it's hard to sort of miss you. You're just such a massive dude, and it's got to be just impressive. I spoke to Delaney Walker a couple years ago at the Super Bowl, and he said, you know, when that guy runs, he's bigger than me. And so you just impose your will on players, on opposing defenses. What's that like to be just such a big physical guy running through the defense?
Yeah, definitely you have to use your size, you know, as your advantage, you know, in this league, you know, especially at my position because you always get hit. So definitely want to deliver balls to the defense before they get their momentum on you, and that's all I try to do.
Talk about winning the rushing title and what that meant to you. I mean, I'm sure it was a special campaign and just everything you were able to accomplish.
Really, it was special because seeing my teammates, you know, wanting to see me win in my offensive line, keeping track of it, because I didn't know when our last game of the season we played Houston to get in the playoffs, and they were keeping track of the yards because I didn't know where I was at, and I think it was like our final drive that we had, and before my last play, coach was like, hey, you got one more play. If you don't get it, you know, I'm going to take you out. Went back to the hold and told them, and the next play I took it 53, so pretty special, you know, and seeing my teammates' reaction when it happened. It
was very special to watch, and I'm sure they were very proud of you, and I'm sure some talk amongst your teammates in the locker room, they want to have you come back to the Titans next year. You're heading into free agency. What's your mindset now approaching this offseason?
Yeah, just take it day by day. Don't rush anything. I've never been a free agent, so this is my first time. So, you know, just relax, take it day by day. It's going to happen when it's supposed to happen. Get my agent, get with the team, and work something out.
Okay, so when people say how you doing, it's just a general comment. But you touched the ball 409 times over 17 games.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. So how are you doing? How are you feeling right now? Or could you go and play right now if you want?
Yeah, play a whole full season right now.
Okay,
good.
A whole full season right now? That's
good.
amazing. That's so impressive because we've seen running backs in the past.
Yeah.
They take on all this work.
That's a stigma. Yeah.
So why are you different?
And it's not really that I'm different. I think it's a mindset. It's taking care of your body. You know, knowing like how to do the right things to get your body prepared. You know, to take that type of workload. You know, take those type of hits. And you know, we're running back position, so you know you're gonna get hit. So you might as well prepare yourself for it. So you know, I work out, try to eat right best as I can. Try to do the right things for my body, as far as treatment-wise, as far as rehab, massage, just all those type of things, just so my body's right and I'm ready to go.
Can you talk about your offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith? Because I just don't think he's got enough credit. What a great job your offense did this year.
Did a great job, man. Love Arthur. You know, I've been with Arthur 4 years. He's a tight end coach, turning into the offensive coordinator. So I knew what we were going to get. We were going to be physical. You know, I knew our identity just by being with him. And Arthur did a great job of getting our playmakers the ball. You know, it was a special when this came up one short.
Oh, A.J. Brown is incredible. So tell me what makes him special. We see from afar, one of our analysts, Ben, who's not on the show today, he compares him to Terrell Owens. What do you see from A.J. Brown?
I call A.J. Brown a young Julio Jones. He's physical, he's fast, he's big, got strong hands. He's great after the catch. We're getting yards after the catch, and, you know, he's a playmaker. And I think he can do it all. And I think he should be in the conversation. Well, he is in the conversation to a Rookie of the Year, so I think he should take it home.
It's got to be tough for you because you got one of your former Alabama guys.
It is. And like I said earlier when I was talking to somebody, I mean, I wouldn't be mad if either one took it home. Just, you know, they both had great years and great players.
Josh was just up here with us. He was telling us that you guys are all still part of a group text with your former running backs coach. What's that conversation like between all these Alabama running backs?
Yeah, usually our coach Burns, he puts us all in a group text, you know. If we have a game or something, or one of us had a good game, or you know throughout the week, just checking on us. Everybody just checks on each other. We call each other, make sure everybody's good, and just keep it with each other throughout the season.
We had Mark Ingram on the set earlier this week, and we asked him about the picture that went viral of him standing next to you. He did not like it at all. He was. What's that like for you? I mean, there's also, I think it was last year with Deion Lewis with the pictures. Just when you see the other side of it, because the little guys don't like it. How do you approach those when those pictures go viral?
Oh yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, I'm already tall, so then the pads make you look 10 times bigger. I think it was the angle of the picture that it kind of made it look like that. Mark's a stout dude. He ain't. I mean, he's 5'10", but He's big. So, you know, I think this is the angle. I got a helmet, shoulder pads, and all that on. So, of course, I'm going to look bigger.
And he was trying to defend him. He said, I was looking at the coin toss, so it made it look like I wasn't paying attention. He's in the distance. You're up close. He's wearing sneakers. You're wearing cleats.
Wearing cleats, yeah. So, of course, it's going to be a very big difference with pads and clothes on.
And he's like the OG of the group, right? I mean,
OG, that's my big bro.
Awesome. We haven't seen you catch 20 passes in a year yet, but we all know that you can do it.
Yes.
Is that something that you can add to your game and bring into 2020?
Heavy emphasis, yes. I'm very, very focused on that in 2020.
Yeah.
Gotta get better at that and want to be involved more. And that's just me, you know, being a better pass catcher, you know, working on it. And give my coaches confidence.
Have you talked to other running backs about that role and doing a little bit more in the passing game and what that might do to help take work and hard hits off of your body?
Not really talking to them, just watching them. You know, seeing how they play. You know, just watching film of other running backs who are great in this league. Like that guy right there, Christian McCaffrey. So
yeah,
exactly.
When you see a guy like Christian, I mean, 1,000. I don't know if that's ever in your calling to do something like that, but you're certainly, like you said, you're capable of it. But when you sort of marvel at other guys and what they're able to do with their skill sets.
Yeah, man. You know, God's blessed. You know, every single one of us with tremendous talent, and it's just so cool to see everybody's different skill set. You know, what they can do as far as a running back, and everybody has their own, you know, their own skill and, you know, how they play the game. And it's definitely remarkable guys in the league, and Christian is one of them.
You faced the Chiefs twice, obviously in the AFC Championship game. What's this defense changed from when you faced them in Week 10 when you went for, I think it was 188-2, to what was the opponent you were going up against in the AFC Championship?
Yeah, I think they did a great job of making those adjustments. You know, we beat them in Week 10 and haven't lost since. They're in the Super Bowl. So, you know, whatever they changed, they did a great job with it. And I think they do a great job as far as the team feeding off each other. We know that offense. We know they can score on all cylinders. We know they hit on all cylinders. We know Patrick Mahomes. And, you know, whenever the whole team is rolling, I feel like they do a great job of feeding off each other.
You have a Super Bowl pick?
I have the 49ers winning. You know, and again, it's hard to pick against Patrick Mahomes, but I feel like, you know, if you can run the football and be physical and play good defense, I think 49ers is the team to do it.
So, Derrick, we've been doing this with all the top skill players that come through our set here, and obviously you're one of the best. I want you to look into that camera right there, and for all the people that play fantasy, tell them why they should draft you in 2020.
You should draft me in 2020 because what you've seen in the playoffs in 2020. So,
yeah.
More
of the same.
Just more of the
Please.
same?
Yes.
More of the same.
And more catching.
For real. Just draft me in 2020. It's going to be a fun year. I'm going to do the best I can to help you win your league, help you win each week. So,
how often do you hear about fantasy football?
A lot. I'm sure every player hears about fantasy football because, I mean, every fan loves it. It gives another connection to the game as far as fans doing fantasy football. So,
tell us what you're doing with Bolt 24.
Bolt 24 is an off-the-field drink that the Greater Area has created. Has electrolytes, antioxidants, and other vitamins. You know, I drink both Gatorade and Bolt 24. Gatorade is what you drink when you're competing, and the Bolt 24 is what you drink when you're off the field. And you know, I think it's important to drink Bolt 24 when you're off the field, just because, you know, it's important what you put in your body. You know, so when you're on the field, it helps you perform better. And this is why Gatorade created that drink.
Well, it's certainly working well for you, and we hope
definitely working well.
Hope it continues,
and it's good too. So
hope it continues to work for you. Good luck with whatever your next step is, whether it's back with the Titans or with another team, and continued success in the 2020 campaign.
Thank y'all so much. Appreciate y'all.
We appreciate Derrick Henry joining us here on Fantasy Football today. When we come back, we're going from one fantastic running back to another. Christian McCaffrey is going to join us here on Fantasy Football today. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next. Fantasy Football Today continues here live from Radio Row, Miami Beach Convention Center on South Beach, as we continue our coverage of Super Bowl 54, getting you set for the Chiefs and the 49ers coming up on Sunday. And it's just been an amazing week for us here on CBS Sports HQ. We get lots of superstars coming by our set, and I mean, for what I talk about with fantasy football, there's nobody better than the man down there on the end, and Christian McCaffrey, as Brian McFadden and Pete Prisco join us as well. But I don't care about these two guys. I'm just worried about you, my man, because you were awesome last year. Just talk about what 2019 was for you, becoming the third player in NFL history to go 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving, joining the greats Roger Craig and Marshall Faulk.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think it's tough, when you have individual success, but the team's not doing too well. So you appreciate it, though. You don't take it for granted. So I was very fortunate and had a lot of fun with it. But, at the end of the day, winning's the most important thing. And it would have been a lot sweeter if we could win a few more games and, maybe hit a playoff run. But, I'm lucky. I've gotten to play with a lot of really cool guys like Luke Kuechly, guys like Greg Olsen, guys like Cam, who are fun to play with and who do it the right way. So,
was there anything you did differently, though, setting yourself up for this year? And was that a goal for you to get the 1,000?
Yeah, when I came into the league, it was something that I marked down. I think the way the running back position is evolving is into, true 3-down backs who can run the ball in between the tackles, outside the tackles, catch the ball. And something I take pride in is being able to line up, as a receiver, not just be a running back who runs routes, but becoming an actual receiver and, catching the ball, doing all those different things. I think being more versatile is I love playing football. I love being on the field. I don't want to come out. So, those are all ways that I can stay on the field and help the team win. So it was something I definitely wrote down. It was a goal of mine and cool to achieve it. But, hopefully we can keep building off of that and do more.
Well, if that was a goal, Christian, what goals do you have set for yourself for 2020? Being a 1,000-yard guy, receiving and rushing was an unbelievable goal. So what do you have, or what are you looking forward to accomplishing in 2020, knowing that you already accomplished 1,000 and 1,000? Yeah,
it's a good question. It's tough because, 1,000. I have so many individual goals. And it's a lot of times it's specific to that time. In my training, what are my goals for the next 2 months, and it's a constant progression. But I just want to win. I really just want to win, and I can write down on my individual goals, and if I reach them, great. But at the end of the day, I think that, once again, I keep saying this, but it's true. Winning trumps all. You could have 300 yards, but if you don't win, I'm going in the locker room and I'm pissed off. So, I'll write down my goals and figure those out individually, and hopefully we can reach them. But, if we can reach them and win, that's a double whammy.
You have a new head coach, Matt Rule. You also have a new offensive coordinator, Joe Brady. Have you watched any LSU tape yet to get an idea what he's going to run?
Yeah, I watched a lot of LSU tape, and I think the thing that's exciting is how he puts the ball in different guys' hands and utilizes them in space, and takes them from certain positions and allows them to execute and be the players that they are. Because I think we have so many weapons on our team. We got a young team with a mix of veteran leadership. But we're starting with a clean slate, and we got a lot of hungry guys who are willing to work and willing to do it the right way. And that's one of the things that'll be critical in putting the pieces together.
Do you expect Cam to be back with the team next year?
Yeah, I don't expect anything. I don't expect anything. I do and I don't. I try to focus on me and focus on everything I can control. I can say this though: the time I've spent with Cam has been amazing. He's somebody that. It's so fun to play with. His energy is off the charts. He's a great leader, a great teammate. So I have no idea what will happen. Unfortunately, the sad reality of this league is that it is a revolving door, and no one lasts forever. Luke Kuechly leaving, Greg Olsen now leaving, and it's tough because it feels like some of my buddies who I came into the team with and got really close with are now gone. But that's the reality of the league.
Speaking of some of the guys you mentioned that will no longer be a part of the Panthers organization, Olsen, Luke Kuechly, not knowing the status of Cam Newton, it's safe to say that you will potentially be the captain or one of the captains for this ball club going forward. Are you ready to embrace that role?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the thing with our team too is, we need everybody to be a leader. When you win 5 games, there's no standard leader that this is our guy. There are certain guys who have more vocal presence than others, but I don't care if you're a rookie, if you're a 10-year guy. We need everybody on the same level and everybody to lead in their own way. So, I'm excited because I think we got the guys who are willing to do that.
I want to go back to Cam for a second because what you were able to accomplish, given the fact that you had to do it with 3 different quarterbacks. How tough was that for you to sort of go from Cam to Kyle and then, just with everything that sort of changed throughout the course of the season? How difficult is that for you not knowing the same guy's going to be under center week in, week out?
Yeah, it's tough. Consistency is huge, but it's not up to me, and I think that the best players are able to stay poised through adversity. And, you obviously would rather consistency and being able to get comfortable with somebody and start to understand, what they think and how they want, you to run a certain route, how they want you to run a inside zone. But that's one of the things that happens. Guys get hurt, guys go down, and you need guys to step up. It's the NFL, so everybody's good, everybody's ready to roll, and that's the way we approach it.
The Super Bowl obviously is going to be a fun one. When you look at the Chiefs and how they operate offensively, the 49ers with their strong rushing attack, how are you sort of looking at this game from maybe an analyst standpoint? Put your analyst hat on for a second and break down the game.
Well, one, it's going to be ridiculously exciting. I think when you look at both offenses and the amount of speed they have, you look at two really good quarterbacks. If not, Pat Mahomes being one of the best quarterbacks I've seen, and then Jimmy and what he's done with San Fran leading that team, and there's a lot of speed on the offensive side of the ball. The thing I'm most excited to watch, though, is the offensive and defensive lines. I think that'll determine the outcome of this game. I think you need to block the Niners' pass rush. And the thing that's tough just playing against them, I didn't play against the Chiefs. I watched limited tape on them, but they're run-stopping defense as well. And I think when you look at the 49ers' defensive line, they got pass rushers. And they're run stoppers. And then you have two linebackers who, in my opinion, are, one of the best tandems that I've ever played against in Fred Warner and Quan Alexander. And then, a veteran like Richard Sherman who's been there, done that. He's a heck of a player, but also, communication in the secondary is key. And, he's got those guys dialed up. But you look at the team speed on defense and the way they rally to the football. They play with amazing energy. And obviously the Chiefs on the offensive side of the ball are one of the most exciting teams right now. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Looking at the new wave in the NFL offensively, running backs, the young running backs are starting to take over. And our good friend here, Pete Prisco, he believes running backs are not that important. He believes you can get
that kind.
No.
Is.
I'm letting you know. I'm telling him right now in front of Christian McCaffrey. He believes he can find a running back anywhere.
Yes. You can hit him with the mic if you want to.
Alvin Kamara.
I would say this because I think a lot of people think that, but I wouldn't. And this is me speaking. I wouldn't describe myself as a running back. I think an offensive weapon is the way that you need to describe some of these backs who are. And I'll speak for myself, but I caught 116 balls this year. I had over 1,000 yards receiving, so that's a good year for a receiver.
No question.
And are running backs valuable? I think absolutely they're valuable. If you have a bad running back, and he can't make guys miss in space, he can't make second level cuts. You can't break tackles. That can be the difference in the game. You see the explosive passes and what the quarterbacks and receivers do, but games are ultimately, in my opinion, dictated at the line, and the running back's the one who has the ball when you're there.
And speaking of,
he threw me under the bus, by the way.
I did.
Yeah, you just threw me under the bus.
You said that.
I do say that, but what do I also say about his style of running back?
He said airbacks
are different.
Offensive weapons. He's similar type.
But there are quite a few offensive weapons in the national.
I'm saying
football.
The guy who lines up and runs the ball constantly is becoming an outdated weapon.
Essentially, what he's saying is the guy who sat in the chair before you. Those are the type of running backs. Despite what Derrick Henry just did, these are the type of players that he thinks are not the same as guys like you who are able to do multifaceted.
Correct.
I think Derrick Henry is the most valuable person on that team.
I would agree.
I agree also.
We
don't know. I don't know how Pete feels.
No, I don't agree because 370 carries, the history says in the next 2 years his production is going to go off the ledge because he's
Pete, you've been around forever, so we don't care about your history.
Well, I think that's individual cases. And you can look at the statistics. Adrian Peterson's been playing for 40 years and still playing at a high level. And he's had more touches than any of those guys you're probably talking about. And he's an anomaly. He's one of few, but you look at what Derrick Henry did and being a bell cow running back, he was the most valuable player on that team. And if you want, somebody like that to dictate the outcome of playoff games, you need them on your team.
Is there a guy that you love watching when you get a chance, to be around a television and, this particular team is playing, you're like, I want to sit down and check them out a little bit?
I like watching. There's so many backs I love watching around the league right now. I think it's a fun time for football, especially at the running back position, because you do have so many guys now who don't just catch the ball, but they're able to be a matchup nightmare. But I watch them all. I love watching Saquon. He's a guy that I think athletically is phenomenal. In his vision and some of his open field moves he's special. I love watching Kamara. I think I watch a lot of tape on him just and how he does certain things and how defenses play him. You know, I figured if we play them, they'll probably do the same against me. His contact balance is impressive. You know, I watch a lot of Zeke. I think Zeke's a heck of a physical runner. Derrick Henry, there's a lot of stuff that he does as, you know, are jaw-dropping. So it's just fun to watch. You know, there's just so many backs in the league. You know, obviously TG's been doing it forever and, you know, fun to watch. So, I mean, there's a lot of backs that I really enjoy watching.
So Christian, essentially what you just did, you just listed off basically my entire fantasy football rankings for next year. But you're at the top. And so what I need you to do, we've asked all these guys to come through on our set. I need you to look into that camera right there. I need you to tell all the people that play fantasy in 2020 why should you be the first overall pick and why people should draft you next year.
Well, I think you should pick me first in the 2020 NFL fantasy football draft because I'm going to do my best to not come off the field, to catch every ball thrown to me. And I don't know. Does it depend on whatever it's a PPR? What's the PPR? What's that? I hear so much.
Catches. That's
everyone
catches.
comes up to me and says,
"You're valuable."
Okay, so that makes sense. I'm a friend of the PPR. Everyone comes up to me like, "You're amazing in my PPR league." I'm like, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. PPR, what's that? But that makes sense though. So if you're in a PPR league, and I do a lot catching the ball as well as running the ball, so. Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
with Joe Brady.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Tell us about Old Spice and what you're doing with them.
Yeah, so Old Spice just launched their new Ultra Smooth campaign, and it's a deodorant. They also have a body wash in it now available at Walgreens. It's a very low-key scent. It's not too much, not too heavy. It's subtle, but it's awesome. So I'm a fan of smelling. I don't like smelling bad. So, go check it out at Walgreens.
We're fans of that as well. We will definitely go check it out. And thank you for everything you do for the Carolina Panthers. And certainly for us as fantasy players, we really appreciate it. PPR, non-PPR, it doesn't matter. You're great in all those. Thank you for joining us here on Fantasy Football Today. When we come back, we have more coverage from Radio Row here on CBS Sports HQ. You do not want to miss what we have coming for you as part of our Super Bowl 54 coverage.